A lot of people on the spiritual path worry about losing interest in the social world or losing interest in the world in general. I remember a satsang once where a disciple came up to the guru and said that they've lost all social interest. They have no interest in society and anything else in the world in general. And the guru said, very great. Now, that would be an odd comment for someone who is unfamiliar with Advaita Vedanta and non-dualism. But if you are familiar with it, you would understand why the guru said that. And this is addressed in what is known as the greatest spiritual book in the world, the Ashtavakra Gita. Now, there is a verse in the Ashtavakra Gita that talks about what happens when we lose interest in the world. What is the strategy going forward, and how can we reconcile this loss of interest in worldliness and in our own life? So let me read this very important verse to you. Realizing this universe as mere illusion and losing all curiosity, how can one of steady mind yet fear the approach of death? Now, first in this verse, let's address losing interest in the world, right? Now, there is a focus, not just in this verse within the Ashtavakra Gita, but other verses on what to do when we lose interest in the world. But Ashtavakra is saying, just like that guru I mentioned before, that this is a very big step on your journey home. Because once you know something to be an illusion, how can you have any curiosity or interest in that thing, right? And so you might say, how can I say that the world is an illusion? How can I say society is an illusion? It's the way that we interpret it, right? So like through our own subjective viewpoint, our own Maya mind. Remember, Maya means measurement, where we cut the world up into this and that according to our own personal likes and dislikes. We create a world for ourselves that doesn't really exist, and it only exists in our own head, and we superimpose it onto the world and try and push that onto others as if that is the world, and that is not the world. And so once you begin to downregulate that and become aware that that is an illusion, then you begin to see the world as it truly is. And according to Ashtavakra, as it truly is that Brahman alone is real. Oneness is the only reality. Everything else is an illusion. So a lot of these things that we associate with in society, the curiosity we have for the world and this and that, when we realize that all is Brahman, where does that go? Is there any more curiosity? Because that was all based on a dualistic perspective, right? I need this, I want to become good at that, and so forth and so on. It doesn't mean that your life will disappear, but it means that your interest in these things will begin to wane because you've become identified with who you truly are, which is Atman, that undifferentiated consciousness, which is identical with Brahman. So from Ashtavakara's perspective, the universe as we know it does not exist. It's an illusion. Now, I'm speaking in relation here to Shankara, right? The great phrase, Brahma Satyam Jagat Mithya, which means Brahman alone is real. The world is an appearance, or the world is an illusion, right? When we begin to measure the world up into this and that according to our own likes and dislikes, we don't see the universe as Brahman, right? Because the universe is Brahman, but we think that the universe is something else and there's this and that, and it's this world of duality, but Brahman alone is real. Oneness is the only reality. And so from Ashtavakara's perspective, that idea of the universe is an illusion. And so when that is an illusion, how can we have any curiosity for what this or that has to offer us, if it even really exists, is what Ashtavakara is saying, right? Even if it exists, we get so caught in our own mind. We think these things are real, but they're not real in and of themselves. All that is real, according to Ashtavakara, is Brahman alone. And so in the second part of this verse, when we realize that everything is an illusion, how could we be drawn into it? Ashtavakara says, how could one of steady mind yet fear the approach of death? And so this is an interesting question, because if we understand that the Atman, the undifferentiated consciousness, is eternal, it's eternal, right? It's not something that is part of the manifest world, this world that is going to eventually disintegrate, right? It's not part of this world. It is that which is immanent within it, but also transcends it, and yet is not identified in any way to the idea of duality in this so-called dualistic world that we live. And so in understanding that, Ashtavakara is asking this question because if you understand that all is Brahman, if you understand that your Atman is identical with Brahman, then the nature of your existence is birthless and deathless. And birth and death are an illusory phenomenon. So your birth and death are not real. You are the birthless and the deathless eternal Atman, which is Brahman. This is why Ashtavakara is asking this question, right? He's posing this question to us because we've lost interest in the world, right? Yet there still is that fear of approaching death from one of a steady mind. But Ashtavakara here is trying to calm us down a little bit here, right? Because he's saying, you forgot that you are the birthless and the deathless, right? You forgot that. And so a knower of Brahman, one who truly knows that Atman is Brahman, right? When you understand that, how could you be afraid of the dissolution of the body? When you know all is the Atman, how could you be afraid of the dissolution of the body? Because the Atman is unaffected by the dissolution of the body. The Atman goes on. It is ever present. It is never not here. Like when the disciples of Ramana Maharshi were crying when Ramana was on his deathbed, and Ramana said, where can I go? I can't go anywhere. The Atman is always here. It's ever present. You're attached to something that is a temporary wave on the ocean of Brahman. You forgot that I am Atman itself. And so how can we be afraid of the dissolution of the body when we know that we are truly that? This is what Ashtavakara is saying to us. Do we truly know we are that birthless and deathless reality? Or are we clinging to this temporary existence that we think we are, but we've only been here for less than a blink of an eye in the great cosmic drama of the universe? And so we need to finally remember that we are truly that. When we understand that, we will not be afraid of the dissolution of this temporary body, because we finally have understood that the reason why we don't have an interest in the world is because we are beginning to abide more and more as the ultimate reality of existence. And so nothing in the world could have power over you, because you are not that, because you've identified with the Brahman. Shanti, shanti, shanti.